Now I invite the children to come forward for the children's message. How are you all? Only 3 days of school this week, huh? 2 days of school. You have Wednesday off? What the heck kind of a school system is this? I never had the Wednesday off before Thanksgiving. You see how sad I am to think of that? Am I trying to be funny, Victoria? Yeah. Okay, good. I'm glad you got it. All right. This is a story called The Woodcutter and the Doves, and it's kind of scary. You ready? Okay. We'll wait till Liam sits down. Yannick sits down. Lars was a woodcutter who had spent his entire life in a huge forest near Trondheim. He knew every trail in the forest. Some said that young Lars might even know every tree and bush. One day, while Lars was getting ready to cut down a tree, he heard a cooing sound not far away. He followed the sound and discovered 2 beautiful white doves caught in a wooden trap. Poor birds, Lars thought. If I don't free them, surely they will die. He quickly opened the trap and let the 2 white birds fly away. Then the woodcutter returned to his job and forgot about the birds. In the days ahead, Lars married a beautiful young woman, moved to a small city 10 miles away, and began to raise a family. 25 years passed quickly. Although he prospered in his new job, Lars often thought of the forest that had been his early home. And one day Lars rose early in the morning, kissed his wife and children goodbye, and said, "I'm going back to the forest. I will return tomorrow for supper." The 10-mile journey seemed only a few hundred yards to the eager woodcutter, and when he arrived at his beloved forest, everything seemed the same. He recognized the old pathways he had walked upon, as well as the rocks. Lars began to walk deeper and deeper into the forest, and all of a sudden he realized he was lost. The forest had gotten much bigger over all those years, and now he was lost. Still, he walked on farther and farther. This had never happened to him before. Was it possible that he had also lost his sense of direction? He continued to walk until night came and darkness settled over the forest. Lars was very cold and hungry, and for the first time, he was frightened of the forest. Then he looked off and he saw a little cottage, and there was a light in the cottage. And he knocked on the door, and after a few moments, the door slowly creaked open. That's how you can tell it's a scary story. Because when it's a not scary story, the door just goes right open. But in a scary story, it goes. You probably already knew that. A light from the cabin hit the night air, and a chill ran down the woodcutter's spine. Standing in the door was the strangest woman he had ever seen. Her skin was whiter than snow, and her eyes shone like hot coals. She had long black hair that hung far below her waist. "Can I help you?" the woman asked in a raspy voice. That's another thing. It's when the woman speaks, it goes, I help you? That's, it's scary. "I'm lost," Lars said haltingly, "and I'm hungry and cold, and I also need a place to sleep." "Come right in," the woman said. And everybody in the audience is yelling, "Don't go in, Lars." No, that's not in here. I put that in. Lars felt most uncomfortable in this strange house, but he was so hungry, and the food placed before him smelled so good that he quickly ignored his apprehension. He ate everything that the woman placed before him, and when he had finished, he stood to thank his hostess. And suddenly, here it comes. You knew it, right, Victoria? Suddenly there came a hissing sound from the corner of the room. And Lars saw a huge black snake slowly slithering toward him. And the snake had the face of the woman. "You have come at last," hissed the snake. "I have waited 25 years. Do you remember the 2 white birds that you set free? They were going to be my evening meal. When I saw you release them, I swore that one day I would get you." "I did not know they were yours," said the woodcutter. "If you had said something, I would never have opened the trap." "So," the snake said, You admit that you set them free. Now I know I have the right person. Tonight at midnight, I'm going to get you. You know what get you means? It's not good, is it? No, it's not good. Is there nothing that can save me? The woodcutter cried. Yes, the snake said slowly. If the bell in the old church tower rings 12 times before midnight, you will be free. But since I will not let you leave this house, it is certain that you will be my midnight snack. Oof. Filled with panic, Lars looked about the cabin, attempting to find a way to escape. All the windows were locked, and the snake had moved in front of the only door. There was no way out. Lars slumped to the floor, realizing that soon he would be a snack. As he sat on the floor, Lars thought of his wife and children. He remembered the joy he had experienced working in the woods. He had been a fortunate man up until now. Tears ran down his cheeks, and after a long time, the woodcutter looked up at the clock on the wall. It was 5 minutes before midnight. The snake began to make its way from the doorway towards Lars. It curled itself around the chair in front of him and taunted him with its darting tongue. You know, snakes have this long tongue. I hate that, don't you? No. You don't? Oh. Just before the big hand reached the midnight hour, there was a weak sound off in the distance. It was the sound of a bell. It rang and rang. Lars started counting. 9, 10, 11, 12. With the last ring of that bell, the house vanished. The snake disappeared, and Lars stood alone in the dark forest. Knowing he could go nowhere else until morning, he curled up and fell asleep, wondering who had rung the bell and saved his life. And when the first beams of light broke in the morning leaves, Lars was on his feet, and off in the distance he went to the old church. He walked quickly to the building and to the bell tower, and there he found spots of blood. And down below on the floor of the bell tower, he saw white feathers, more blood, and the 2 white doves who had thrown their tiny bodies at the bell 12 times in order to repay the man who had saved their lives. Lars gently picked up the birds. Though their bodies were bruised and broken, each had a steady heartbeat. He tore his shirt and wrapped up each of the birds tenderly in a piece of cloth, and he stayed with the doves, feeding and caring for them until they were healthy. And then one morning he opened the church door, and for the second time he set the 2 white doves free, and they flew out of sight. He returned to his home, greeted his wife and children, and lived happily ever after. That's a good ending, right? Reminds you of Hansel and Gretel? Yeah. This is a very old story, too, like Hansel and Gretel. You know what this story tells us? I mean, all stories, every story you hear is a lot of lessons. But what this story tells us is that when you do good deeds, when you are kind, when you are loving, when you are helpful, those kinds of things return to you. I mean, this is told in a story that's really just a fable, but the story is about truth, and that truth is that if you do kindness, and if you love mercy, and if you walk humbly with God, which is in the scriptures, then those things will come back to you. Are there times when you need somebody to help you? Are there sometimes when you feel a little down, maybe even a little wounded, and you need someone to come and help you? There are times when we are sick and we go to the doctor and the nurses and the other health professionals to help us, and that's their job to help us. And so we're so glad to have them with us. So this is what this lesson is about. And every story you read tells, every good story, tells a basic truth about life and what it is like for us to live a good life. Even the stories without snakes. You guys can go to your Sunday school classes now. Now watch out for this wire. Let me move this. Thanks for listening, guys.